We'll go ahead and get started here. I wanted to start off with just a little interesting note that I found out about grasses not too long ago. I was reading a book called The Rise and Fall of the Dinosaurs. And at some point in that, I just got to thinking, why have I never heard what are those dinosaurs that were the buffalo of the dinosaur world? You know, the cows of the dinosaur world eating the big grass, the plains out there. What were those? And there weren't any because grass is a relatively new plant on the world stage. For whatever reason, I thought the grasses, when there was the first a few sails come up out of the ocean, one of those first ones was probably a crabgrass poke up somewhere, but it wasn't. They haven't been really around very long, about 60 million years. Right after the dinosaurs, right after the dinosaurs became extinct, the planet started warming a little bit. It started getting a lot drier, and grasses were kind of fit a little niche there. First off, a couple of things that they bring to the space that's a little bit different than a lot of plants is they're wind pollinated. So that allowed them to not have to rely on certain bugs and birds and things like that, but they could spread their pollen long distances using the wind. Another huge one is they have a basal meristem, meaning they grow. Their growth point is usually right around towards the ground, which is why we can run a mower over them once a week and they still keep growing. Also, why they, it was kind of symbiosis there, the way that basal meristem was putting up new growth, and we started having some mammals that were sort of eating those and kind of used that growth pattern to really proliferate a long, long time ago. And then a huge one that we're going to kind of talk a little bit about is they have what's called C4 photosynthesis. So, like I said, the Earth was getting a little hotter and drier, and so grasses kind of developed a little bit more efficient way of making food. If you think about most of our plants out there are they're making a three carbon sugar when they make photosynthesis. In very simple terms, when most of our grasses make food for themselves, they're making a four carbon sugar. So I'm not a mathematician, but I think four is better than three. So they're a lot more efficient, which is why you go a little bit south of us. They're growing Bermuda grass. It does way better in the heat and in the dry and the summers that they have further south than here. So just an interesting little natural history on grasses that I thought I would mention. So grasses in the garden, what do they bring to us that why would we put them in our garden? And I think the first one for me is just texture and movement. I know a lot of people that the garden is simply about color, flowers, this flower, that flower, all kinds of different colors. Where for me, it's a little bit bigger than that. That kind of gardening is difficult. One, it relies very heavily on annual flowers, so that that can be expensive. Requires a lot more inputs. But the things that grass really brings for me is kind of that texture and movement. Nothing can really replicate that the leaf of grasses. And also, very few things really move in the wind quite like a really nice ornamental grass. So that is really something that I lean on in my garden to that kind of feel the grasses feel. So also seasonal interest. Kind of late fall is really when our most of our ornamental grasses really shine. We're losing our leaves. There's color with that. But those grasses are usually still standing tall. They can kind of turn brown on us. The seed heads still look very good. It really is kind of something I associate with fall these days, as much as the change in leaf colors, also those big, beautiful ornamental grasses. They're very low maintenance. You really cut them back once a year, and that's about it. There's not much stake into them. There's not much fertilization. I would never put any water on any of my ornamental grasses. It's one of those plants we're going to put out there, and we don't really have to worry about much. There's very few disease issues, insects, that kind of thing. They're good companion plants. They fit in well. I mean, if you walk out into a pasture here in Powell County, you're going to see a bunch of grass, but you're also going to see quite a few other things. Maybe the farmers want those, maybe they don't. But it just goes to show that they're good companions. A good stand of ornamental grasses with a few cone flowers popped in there, and you got a pretty stable, long-lasting plant bed right there. And also, they have some ecological benefits. All of our pollinators. That's a big key word right now. Everybody wants to take care of the pollinators, and yes, those pollinators need flowers absolutely to as a food source, but they also need some places to hide, places they can get down in and stay away from predators. Birds the same way. And even outside of some of our insects and animals, our grasses have very fibrous root systems. So they, go down, they help break up that soil that creates organic matter in it. It also can soak up a lot of water that's coming in, letting more water into the ground as opposed to down in the storm drains, that kind of thing. So tons of different ecological benefits that our grasses bring to us. So I'm kind of just going to go through and highlight some of my favorite ones that I have grown, and also talk just a little bit about. I don't want to be the guy that is just like, oh, this is the perfect grass. You're going to love it. There's some of these grasses that have some issues that I want you to know about before you go out and you spend your money on something that might not work for you. So. Also, I just wanted to highlight at the beginning that in this presentation, you're not going to see any miscanthus or fountain grass. I mean, both of those are very common that you see all over the place, and they have their places that they fit. They are absolutely great grasses. But I just kind of wanted to introduce some newer stuff to you guys that maybe you haven't heard of. That way you get some different ideas. So prairie drop seed. I think this is the only scientific name I'm going to say, just because it's a really nice one. Sporobolus heteropolis. I really like that one. I'd like to find a way to work that into like a farm name or something. That would be very cool. If it wasn't for one couple of downfalls, I think this would probably be the biggest ornamental grass available anywhere. It would be the most popular. When it is happy and growing well, it is a gorgeous plant. If you look right here at some of these pictures, it has a good height that most people love in their gardens these days. It doesn't get much over, say, 2 foot tall at max. With flowers on it, it might be 3 foot tall. It has a great fall color, almost like a bronze look to it. And interestingly enough, the seed heads on it are very fragrant. To me, they smell like popcorn. It's one of those things that some people are like, oh, I don't like the smell of it, but for me, it smells like popcorn. I mean, who doesn't like popcorn? So, like I said, if it was not for one kind of downfall, I think this would be the most popular grass out there. And first of all, I do want to say that I got all these pictures from a place called Hoffman Nursery. If you're interested in ornamental grasses, it is a excellent resource, not only for what they call liners, so like smaller plants, but also just information. So I called in, they gave me permission. I've ordered from them several times. I really love working with them. So just wanted to give them a shout out before I forgot. The downfall of prairie drop seed, it is very slow to establish. And when I say very slow, I'm not talking like if you put it in the spring, it's next year you'll be good. I'm talking like 2, 3 years. It is very slow to get up and going. It will kind of just sit there for a couple of years. And I've also found that in areas that it's not happy, uh, it doesn't really die either. I kind of wish, if I put it in the ground, it's not very happy. I wish it would show me that so I could dig it up and move it, or I wouldn't keep waiting on it. It'll kind of just hang out there for. I had one that I want to say it was there for probably 4 or 5 years before I was like, yeah, this is not happy here. So that is kind of the downfall of it. It needs a well-drained soil, and I know at the plant tag and extension agents and all that, we're always going to say organic, well-drained soil. Well, who has that? Where is that? I'd like to find that. But this is absolutely one that you need to find a good spot in your garden that it does not stay wet for sure. And that's tough to do these days. So prairie drop seed, when it is looking good, is one of the best and definitely my favorite of all the ornamental grasses. And native, sorry, I can. Most of these that I have on this presentation are native. I'll try to make sure I let you know when there's one that's not. One of the king of the prairie grasses in this country is the switch grasses. There's all kinds of different varieties of them, different colors, growth habits, tall, short, all kinds of different options. Another thing that I kind of lean on switchgrass for, the panicum species, is it's wet tolerant. So, years ago, well, not even years ago, 3, 4, 5 years ago, everything that you would, look on plant tags and that kind of thing is drought tolerant. They always want to put drought tolerant on those things. But, I really feel like, especially here in central Kentucky, we are heading into a time where wet tolerant is really what I need to be looking for. It's been a while since I felt like I've bumped into a real drought time. But I always have wet spots in my lawn. So this panicum does great in those wet soils. Even will tolerate a real heavy clay. I have kind of a heavy clay wet area in my yard that I've got 3, 4, 5 of these in, and it does great. Very happy. Doesn't flop over like you might see with a lot of with some ornamental grasses when they get wet. This one right here, this Northwind, is I've grown for years. I've divided it for many, many times. It is a real standby for me. It has you can see that first picture on the left there, that's that north wind. It's very kind of a vertical accent. I have this. It's in that wet area I was talking about. I have maybe 4 or 5 of those, and then some goldenrods. I want to say it's called a fireworks, and then some mountain mint. And they all just sort of fight it out. I just let them go, and whoever wins wins. And they all seem to be holding their ground. I never have to pull any weeds out of there. Never have to put any water on it. It's a very kind of stable plant community there that really is kind of what I like and what I'm trying to do in my garden. If you look over here to the right, I didn't mention it on that first slide, but over on the right, that top one that you can see those kind of reddish leaf tips, that one's called Shenandoah. And I've grown that a few times as well. It's also a very good grower, can handle some wet conditions, can handle some dry. It's a lot shorter than this Northwind. That Northwind probably can get out close to 6 foot tall. This Shenandoah is a little bit more of a 3 foot, 3.5 foot, that kind of range. So a lot more, a lot better size for what a lot of people are looking for in their gardens. Also, kind of that bronzy yellowish color, great in the fall. Like I said, really fits in well in the fall garden. Another one that I really love, but kind of has one fatal flaw to it, is little blue stem. If you look at a couple of these pictures right here, great color, like this kind of powdery blue with some purples in there, a little tinges of brown on the leaf or on the seed heads. Great color that is very attractive in your garden. Great size. It doesn't get too awfully tall. I want to say with those seeds heads, maybe 4 foot tall, but not, not going to crowd you out, not going to feel like it's over your head, that kind of thing. It Very attractive seed heads. Um, I'm sorry, that is not right there. That tolerant of moist soils. It is went the wrong way. There we go. Uh, its one fatal flaw, it is very quick to flop in wet soils. So I've grown. I think it's called the blues. I want to say one of them's called Haha Tonka or something like that. And beautiful color, look great from June and some of July, and then you get one good rain and it kind of flops over on you. And not like flop over, it's going to bounce back to no, it's laying on the ground for the rest of the year. And I really dislike that look. And I'm also, I don't know if you'd call it lazy or what, but I'm not a big staker. Like if you can't stand up on your own, then you got to go. But I have had success with this one right here, this standing ovation. I had a few of them in my house in Lexington, and through very wet summers, it stood tall the whole year. It doesn't quite have the same nice color as some of those the blues and those kind of things, but it was worth it. That's it right there on that right picture there. So still had enough good color that it was still attractive, but even more made more attractive because it stood up through our wet summers. Another one that's kind of a cousin. If anybody's looked at this one right here, and it's a cousin of broom sedge. So a lot of farmers, you'll have that out in fields that kind of are a little hungry. What we call it. It doesn't have much fertility to it. The broom sedge really likes it. It's a very close cousin to this little blue stem that you're looking at right there. So another cousin of those guys is the big blue stem. Close, same plant family. Just has a little bit different growth habit and stuff. Now this one is very tolerant of moist soils. So if you have an area that stays wet, and you want to, maybe you're even tired of getting down and trying to mow in that area. Like Kelly said earlier, big sweeps of things can be a very good way to kind of deal with some of those areas instead of getting your mower stuck or having ruts through the ground there. Finding what's a couple of these grasses that you can make a big sweep there and just cut that area out of where you're mowing. It's kind of what I did with the that bed I was talking about earlier that had the north wind panicum in there. So this one's going to get a little bit taller, 5 to 6 foot tall. They have one that I want to say like gets like 7 or 8 feet tall, but I'm generally not a huge fan of those real tall grasses. And I know people that are in and around working in them can be not so fun. But so about 5 or 6 foot tall is about as much as I'm interested in. So another one that can bring a lot of color to your garden. So this one's called Black Hawk, and I didn't put that in the presentation there, but this one on the right is called Black Hawk, and this one right here is I'm pretty sure the same thing. There's also one called I want to say it's called like Red October, that are very, very similar. But as this gets growing towards the late summer and fall, it really takes on that very dark appearance, almost purple, dark enough purple where it's almost black. It's very, very striking when it's in a garden for sure. It stands out. It's even a good, kind of specimen plant that you would put kind of right in the middle of something that would kind of draw your eye there too. It also has very interesting seed heads. If you look there on the left, a very attractive, kind of very neat thing there. Birds love those big blue stem seed heads. Up here, there's even a fellow that plants, like an acre of it. That he said he just loves the birds out there eating it. And so yeah, another one that I like that I've planted a couple of times now, maybe 2 3 years now. I've had this in my garden, is pink muley grass. It is one that you just didn't see around here until very recently, and I think that we were right on the edge of where that plant could overwinter. I do see them a lot kind of down in South Carolina, Georgia, Florida, those areas. So I think we were kind of right on the cusp of where this could overwinter. And but we've kind of hit that area, and I've had this for 2 or 3 years. I would be I wouldn't want somebody to go out and plant 100 of these because I've had them for 3 winters, but could it just be this winter that we have a prolonged kind of cold, wet, windy, and knocks this out. But when it's healthy and happy and at the right time of year, and it is stunning for sure. A big one you want to avoid on this one is wet soils. It kind of likes those dry feet. It doesn't want to get anywhere wet. So with the weather we've been having these days, be very careful of where you put this at. You want to plant this and make sure you plant this in early summer. And that really goes for a lot of our ornamental grasses, except for one that we'll talk about a little bit later. So if anybody's, I'm sure down in Western Kentucky, y'all have it a lot, but Bermuda grass, you've seen, when it's going along, and then when we get a freeze, it's done with. It's turned brown. It's done with for the year. Most of Bermuda grass is a warm season grass. That C4 grass that we talked about. All the ones that we've mentioned so far are those C4 grasses. So if we go to the garden center and we buy one in mid-September and put that in the ground, it's not but 3 4 5 weeks before it gets hit with a frost, and it's going to sleep. And so basically, it's not doing anything, and it's sitting in that soil. It's getting wet, and it basically rots through the winter time. So all these grasses, make sure you plant them pretty in the spring sometime, spring, early summer. That way, they get a whole growing season to kind of get some roots down into the ground, get established before they kind of go through that cold, wet spell through the winter. This is another one great for dry soils, especially very great to put on the kind of steep banks that are, going to be those south facing slopes that are going to get real hot, dry, very tough grass. Amazing fall color, and I'll show a picture on these seed heads. Just kind of a stunning grass when you see it kind of in full bloom. Yeah, so you'll see right there. I mean, it kind of looks like cotton candy a little bit. I mean, you can tell that's kind of a real dry, south-facing slope. Very hardy. Once you get this planted and established, it rarely needs anything. It wouldn't mind a haircut in the springtime. But other than that, you're never going to be watering this. The less fertilizer, the better. It is a very hardy plant. This is probably taken over as maybe the most common grass you see these days, maybe taken over from miscanthus as the most common grass. 2001 perennial plant of the year. I would bet in this series here, you guys have talked about some perennial plants of the year, but if you haven't, that's an excellent way to. If you need five good plants, go pick five plants that have been the perennial plant of the year because the way they choose those, they put a lot of emphasis on one availability. You know, it's easy to talk about this crazy variety and that crazy variety, but sometimes it's hard to find some of those plants. They make sure that they're widely available, and two, they're very hardy. They can deal with a lot of different soil types, a lot of different climates, those kind of things. This is a very good one, kind of 2 foot little clumps, and then this right here is a cool season grass. So it is a C3 photosynthesizer. So what that means is in Kentucky, most of our turf grasses that we grow here, Kentucky bluegrass, tall fescue, those sort of things, they really are happiest in the spring and fall when temperatures, are cooler during the day and at night. So this is one of those, and the big benefit you get out of that is it kind of seeds very, very early. So it's going to take off and start growing into March, mid March, into March, and then kind of put on a lot of growth in April, May, and it's going to start putting out its seed heads, around the 1st of June or so. I mean, very early in the year, and they tend to last a very long time. It's a very vertical kind of accent, and they last a long time through the winter. I've even used them in floral arrangements. A lot of these you could use in floral arrangements. They're kind of fit in very well with them. This is a very adaptable, very reliable. I've got some of this in an area. We did a home renovation, and if anybody's done any kind of new building or anything like that, those guys put zero emphasis on your topsoil. So this is in an area where I'm guessing this soil was 3 feet in the ground when they dug the header, and then put on the top of the ground just outside of it. And so it is terrible soil. This never skips a beat, grows right through it. I've never had an issue with it. This is very easy to find, very reliable, very, very good grass these days. There you can see kind of that vertical accent. It kind of be a great kind of a barrier between two areas. All kinds of different uses for this one right here. This one would probably even look pretty good in say a container of some sort. You can see right there, it grows very well. It looks like a Joe Pye weed right there. I mean, like all grasses, very good companion plant for lots of different things. Maintenance. When we're talking maintenance, we really only have two big things with grasses. Like I said, they're very tough. They got big root systems. They can go out and find fertilizers and those kind of things. So cut back. Sometime in the spring, some people go out and cut their grasses back in the fall, and I've never understood that. I mean, they're one of the few things that kind of stand up most of the year and look pretty good throughout the winter and provide pretty good winter interest. So I usually go out sometime in the spring, and I'll cut back my grasses. I don't know, March into February, mid March, April. One thing I'd be interested to see is that I think there's some research going on. We talked a little bit earlier about pollinators, and I think there's some research going on of some of our native bees and things that use grasses to kind of bore into the stems through the winter. So, it'd be interesting to see some research on, if you're cutting those back too early, are you hurting those pollinators that you're actually trying to help? So Just not something I'm really familiar with right now, but I'm sure somebody's working on that. So the cutback, if there's one tip I got about cutback I worked with some guys on the golf course, some Hispanic guys that showed me this trick, and I don't know why I never thought of it before, but they just took some tape. You could take some rope, some string, whatever you got, and kind of tie that grass up in a little bit of knot and a little bit of a bundle, and then just use whatever you're going to do to cut those with. I've used loppers. If they're small enough, you can use hand pruners. If you got a pair of hedge trimmers would work excellent. But when you tie it up like that, go right across the top, and then it's all bundled up right there for you. You can put it in the compost. You can, put it in the trash can. Do whatever you're going to do with it. Also, I've got quite a few areas where I will cut my grasses back, but I don't put them in the compost. I just leave them wherever they fall, however they fall. I'll just leave them there. And if you think about the way a grassland works, I mean, every year that's sort of falling down. Every bit of nutrients it took out of the ground, you're putting back on the ground, and it's creating kind of this cycle. So if you can deal with a little bit of messiness for a while, that's an excellent way to do it. The big one that a lot of folks, the big job with grasses after you get them planted is division. And they are very vigorous growers, so they have a big root system. It can be pretty tough. It can be a bear to get some of those out of there. A couple of tools that I really like myself that I've used. One I didn't put on there, but a very sturdy steel handled shovel. When I was in Campbell County, we had one from A.M. Leonard. It was very expensive, but worth it for a lot of different things. I mean, if you've got if you're digging in roots a lot and all kinds of different ways, but this thing was very heavy, and so you're no way you'd be able to break it, kind of pulling up on some of those grasses, but a good strong shovel. I've also used a kind of a small pitchfork to kind of loosen it up around the sides. That's worked very well for me at my house right now. But when we're actually talking about dividing, I've done a couple of things. One I've taken and just kind of dig up one side of it, one side of the grass, and then I'll use this. Here in Powell County, we call them a sawzall, a reciprocating saw, to just kind of get down in there right in the middle of it and kind of cut right through that root ball. Then you can get your shovel in there. That sometimes is a little bit easier for me to do, especially when that middle of the grass hasn't died out. So that sawzall is a very good tool. And then an axe. I've done that before, and it is one of the best. I mean, if you think about digging one of those big, a big miscanthus or something like that out of the ground, and then you go to try to start sawing on it with, a root pruner or something like that. Ooh, that's going to be a tough one. An old axe laying around, just go to town on it. Pop it into a couple of different sections. It is a very easy tool to use. And then the last one is I've seen guys use a chainsaw. So I'm not very good at sharpening a chainsaw, and I'm also very cheap, and I don't want to buy a new blade for my chainsaw. So I've never done that. But if you have a chainsaw with an old blade that you're going to get a new one before you go into the spring of the season, the summer, I've seen many guys use a chainsaw to kind of divide up those. I I really don't divide a whole lot. I mean, I saw every 3 years and where they recommend that, and no way I've done that. I mean, I would say every 5 years, maybe. So not something that you got to be out there doing every other year. Not really necessary unless you start to see that middle of that grass start to die out. So a couple things that I just want to make sure everybody avoids with grasses, because I think after kind of I don't even know when, the 80s and 90s, I think there was a lot of grasses out there that really got a bad name for a few different reasons, and so I think that it wasn't a popular thing for a little while, and now it's really come back in like the last 10 years or so. But a couple of things to avoid, and a big one is planting too late. Like we talked about, those grasses are warm season grasses. They as soon as we get a frost, they are going to sleep. And if we put them to sleep in a little 1 gallon shape that we're putting in the ground, and we kind of have our normal rainy, wet, a couple of spells of really cold, and that kind of climate that we've been dealing with in the past couple of years, it is not good for our warm season grasses. So avoid planting too late. And when I say too late, I probably, especially if I'm spending a little bit of money on it, I probably wouldn't do much after August. Now, if Kelly dug me up a bunch of the grasses that he got and said put them in your garden, then I might stretch that a little bit. But yeah, if I'm spending money on it, anything past much middle August, I'm not going to do. Another thing that I've had some success with is really the smaller the better with ornamental grasses. If you've ever bought they're getting very expensive now, and I think this will be the second time I've set up kind of cheap on this presentation. But even outside of the price of a big ornamental grass, you take that pot off of them, they usually have roots that are wrapped around 20 times. And I've had less success with those bigger grasses than I have, little 1 gallon pots. I mean, as small as you can get them. I've ordered from the Hoffman Nursery several times because they sell liners, so real small plants, like little 2 inch containers that you can get. I think they have 18, and then 32, and then 50, I believe. Um, so yeah, have ordered from them and have had a lot of success. Usually, you put a little small grass in the ground, it's as big as that big grass that you paid 30, $40 for within a season or two. A couple of things that I've learned from experience is avoid real heavy cedars. And the big one that I can think of is one they call river oats. It is a very interesting seed. It's a beautiful grass. It'll grow in the shade pretty well too. But it is a very heavy cedar, and next thing you know, you bought one plant of it, and next thing you know, it's kind of taken over, and it can kind of take over in areas, and so I've definitely avoided that one. Now, that Chinese silvergrass is not one you're probably going to see much anymore, but that's the one that really got a bad name for seeding a lot. If I live I'm in Powell County, and if you drive up to the Red River Gorge on both sides of the highway, that stuff is covering it. It was a really popular one many years ago. It is a miscanthus. But most of the miscanthuses now are sterile seeds. But that older one, if you know somebody around you that said, "I'll give you a shovel full," avoid that one. So, but just a big rule: avoid any big heavy cedars, and those are the two ones that I can think about. Another one that you want to avoid is anything that grows really rapidly with rhizomes, and two of them really come to mind. And one is bamboo. That's kind of a classic one that every extension agent in the county or in the state has got a call from a homeowner that the neighbor next door planted bamboo, and it's coming under the fence. It's coming under a concrete wall. So just avoid that one unless the one place I've seen that work and be pretty neat is somebody that's got a decent sized field, and they'll put it kind of in the middle of the field, and they're going to mow all the way around the bamboo. So, but if you're going to tuck it up against a fence or something like that, that's always it never seems to work out. So, and the other one that I just don't see much anymore, thankfully, that we had in Campbell County that was a real bear to get rid of is that Japanese bloodgrass. It stayed pretty small, but was very aggressive, growing with rhizomes. So would definitely take over an area that you don't want to have it in. So like I said, I wanted to say special thanks to Hoffman Nurseries. I have learned a ton from them. I guess I'm a plant nerd at heart, and reading about ornamental grasses is something that I would do in my free time.